Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Histories of Hymns, Stories of Songs, Episode 9. Well, I have a real treat for you in this episode, as this will be a double-dip episode in more ways than one. We will have double the hymns, taking a look at It Is Well With My Soul and Blessed Assurance. The anthem sung at the end will be a medley featuring both hymns, and we will have a double dip of voices, as I have a very special guest joining me remotely for this anthem, Sarah Walston. If you don't know Sarah, you definitely should, especially if you live in the Richmond area. Sarah is primarily a classical and opera singer. She has performed all over the country and even some internationally. She has also done some acting and voiceover work as well. You've probably heard her voiceover work without knowing it in the Geico Meerkat ad. I will put a link in the description below to that ad as well as to her website. I first met Sarah when her voice stole the show in Virginia Rep's production of 1776 back in 2016. Style Weekly said of that performance, "She sings like a lark and gives John Adams something to fight for." About a month later, I happened to be on the same stage with her again when she was the guest artist for the Richmond Symphony's Let It Snow concert. I have also sung with her a couple of times with Capitol Opera Richmond, of which she is a founding member. Now that you know a bit about Sarah, let's get into the stories of these two hymns. The story of how It Is Well With My Soul came into being is one of the most tragic, but also one of the most inspirational. And the story of the hymn's author, Horatio Spafford, has many parallels to the story of Job in the Old Testament. For those less familiar with Job's story, here's a quick recap. Job was a blessed and righteous man who had wealth and a large family. Satan tries to convince God that the only reason Job leads a righteous life is because of his prosperity and health. Take those away, Satan says, and he would no longer serve God and would even curse God. God allows Satan to strip Job of his wealth, children, and physical health. And while Job questions God's reasons for allowing him to lose everything, and even curses the day of his birth, he falls short of cursing God. Job's friends come with the intention of comforting him, but instead, they suggest that Job is guilty of some secret sin, and that's why God is punishing him. Job stays faithful to God through it all, knowing that his suffering is somehow a part of God's will. God rewards his faithfulness by eventually restoring him to an even better condition than he had before Satan afflicted him, and even granting him 10 more children. The events that led to the composition of It Is Well With My Soul can be traced back to the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Horatio Spafford had been a successful lawyer in Chicago and had invested heavily in property within the area that would be heavily affected by the fire. There was extensive damage to the properties he had invested in, and it ruined him financially. 2 years later, Spafford and his family were scheduled to travel to Europe. Spafford himself had to delay leaving on the trip as he needed to deal with zoning issues with his properties that arose in the wake of the fire. Spafford's wife Anna and their 4 daughters went ahead on the French liner Ville du Havre. Their ship collided with the English iron sailing vessel Loch Earn on November 22nd. The Ville du Havre took just 12 minutes to sink. Anna survived, but all 4 of the Spafford's daughters perished at sea. After she arrived in Wales, Anna wired a telegram to her husband that began with the understated sentence, "Saved alone." Horatio immediately left by boat to be with his wife. As he passed near the spot where the Ville du Havre sank, he was inspired with a deep sense of trust in God's refuge and penned the words to the hymn, beginning with, "When peace like a river attendeth my way," and finally ending with, "It is well with my soul." While he was still on the boat, Horatio also penned a letter to his wife's half-sister, Rachel. In it he stated, "On Thursday last, we passed over the spot where she went down. In mid-ocean, the waters 3 miles deep. But I do not think of our dear ones there. They are safe, folded, the dear lambs." Famous evangelist and friend of the Spaffords, Dwight L. Moody, heard the news of the Spaffords' tragedy and traveled to England to comfort them, and he reported that Horatio's response to the event was, "It is well, the will of God be done." In the years that followed the catastrophe, Horatio and Anna were blessed with 3 more children, but again tragedy struck as their son died of scarlet fever at the age of 3. With this final hardship, some unsupportive members in the Spaffords church community, very much like Job's friends, accused the Spaffords of some secret sin, eventually prompting Horatio and Anna to move their family to Jerusalem and set up an American colony there. There they lived out the rest of their lives, setting about doing philanthropical work like starting up soup kitchens, and they also adopted a teenage boy. In this way, they were very blessed and continued to serve God, never cursing or blaming Him for their past tragedies. For Spafford, it took severe family trauma to test his faith and to inspire him to write one timeless beloved hymn. While It Is Well With My Soul seems to be the only hymn that Spafford ever wrote, Blessed Assurance was one of over 8,000 hymns written by its author, Fanny Crosby. Fanny Crosby, who went blind shortly after birth, also did not blame God for her condition. In fact, she recognized that her blindness helped her focus on her music in service of God. She once wrote, "It seemed intended by the blessed providence of God that I should be blind all my life, and I thank Him for the dispensation. If perfect earthly sight were offered me tomorrow, I would not accept it. I might not have sung hymns to the praise of God if I had been distracted by the beautiful and interesting things about me." Crosby began writing hymns as a teenager and continued until shortly before her death at the age of 95. She wrote so many hymns that her publishers would often be leery of inserting that many hymns by one author into their publications. Rather than exclude them, Fanny had them publish her hymns under various pseudonyms, coming up with about 200 different ones in her career. The melody for Blessed Assurance was written by a friend of Fanny Crosby's named Phoebe Knapp, who herself wrote over 500 hymn tunes in her lifetime. Fanny was visiting Phoebe in her home in Brooklyn as she was having a large pipe organ installed. Phoebe was anxious to play this new melody for Fanny that she had just written, but as the organ was not yet finished being assembled, she played it for her on the piano. After she finished playing, she asked Fanny, "What do you think the tune says?" Fanny knelt in prayer, and Phoebe played the melody a couple more times. Fanny finished her prayer and responded, "That says, 'Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine.'" The story of Blessed Assurance is not nearly as dramatic or traumatic as that of It Is Well With My Soul, though this does not diminish its importance and prominence in Christian hymnody. Both It Is Well With My Soul and Blessed Assurance share the theme of confidence in God's protection and provision. Each one of us who believes in Jesus Christ can say, "I have assurance that because I am washed in His blood, Jesus is mine, and so whatever my lot, I can say, it is well with my soul."
It is well with my soul, with my soul. When peace like a river attendeth my way, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine! Heir of salvation, purchase of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. This is my story. This is my song. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long, all the day long. When Lord haste the day when the faith shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as the scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well. It is well with my soul. My soul.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. A very special thank you to Sarah Walston for collaborating with me on the medley. Be sure to check out her website to see some samples of the amazing things she has done in her career. And if you liked this video, please feel free to leave a like or a comment. And if there's a hymn or song you would like featured in a future video, let me know that in the comments as well. Thank you again, and God bless.